Life is full of struggle, and the byproduct of this struggle is anxiety, grief, sorrow, anger, hatred, restlessness. There is nothing good about life for most of the people. And the cause of all that is our ego. Ego is not under our control. Just somehow we are locked into the grips of the ego. Ego wants to expand and expand and expand. Me and mine. Me and mine. This has become the way of life for almost everyone in this sansar. The more mine is, we think there's going to be more happiness. We don't realize the more mine is there are more fields, more peripheries that you have to protect, more borders you have to protect. Once I say, this house is mine, if anything happens to that house, becomes my problem. It gets some kind of damage, some repair work, or lightning strikes, or fire happens, everything becomes a headache. But the same thing happening to someone else's house doesn't even bother me. If your house goes on a fire, you're upset. A neighbor's house goes on a fire, you go, you express sympathy and do your routine formalities to express the sorrow. But really, inside, you know you are safe because your house is safe. Mine and yours leads to this callousness, and the fault is of the ego. Ego divides people. As soon as you call something yours, the rest of the world can go to hell as long as the ego survives, as long as your possessions survive. And mindness expands, and it includes the things which become ridiculous to even think that can be yours. You stand on a piece of land and you say, I bought this and it is mine now. How long is it going to last? As long as you last. And then a new owner comes in, and then he dies, and another owner comes in, then he dies. Life goes on. That piece of land always stays there. If you really think about it from the point of view of the land, that piece of land must be laughing. Say, look at these guys. They come and go, and every time they come, they say, this is my land, this is my land, this is my land. There is no mindness, there is no ownership in this world. We call our girlfriend ours. As soon as we call her ours, the struggle starts. If she speaks to anybody else, we get angry. If somebody comes and approaches her, we start defending our mindness. And of course, if the girlfriend runs away, the whole world is gone. So we put our sense of ownership on the girlfriend and boyfriend, vice versa. The mindness is a madness, and yet we don't realize that. Even our breath, we call it's mine. Think about it. If it is yours, how come you cannot control it? Try stop breathing. Maybe a minute. Beyond that, you can't do it anymore. You have to breathe. Under whose control is your breath? And you call it yours. Mindness extends even to ridiculous things, and in reality leading to ridiculous results. You call yourself Christian or a Hindu or a Muslim. Once you call yourself that, anybody else becomes separate than you. If a non-Christian walks into a church, his treatment would be different. But if a Hindu is converted into Christianity and officially becomes Christian, everybody is happy, because their own ego has expanded, and people think that the more of what we are, the better it must be. And this kind of comfort we carry around. Conversions of religions is going from one hell into another hell, because all these are pieces of identifications that are being added into your ego. The ego puts its stamp on everything only because it just wants to live forever. And in this ego, we have been living for millions of lives. And we have developed this for a long time. My country, my religion, my car, my wife, my girlfriend, my money. And none of these were there at some point in your life. And despite that, we keep on calling this thing ours until we have to leave this world and we give everything back to the sansar. Nothing remains. And we wasted our whole life struggling because of our ego. The ego succeeded and we lost. The ego is an illusory life that we create. There is a story of a saint who was sitting and watching outside. There was a piece of diamond sitting there. Two soldiers are passing by. One coming from one side, another one from the other. All of a sudden, these two soldiers see the piece of diamond at the same time. And the struggle happens. Fight starts. Swords are drawn. Killing starts. Bleeding starts. And ultimately both end up killing each other to death. And that piece of diamond is still sitting there. The fight was of the ego. Fight was of the ownership. That's what we need to renounce in this world if we want to have peace. Your ego always wants to survive. If somebody says something to you insulting, the insult that you feel has very little to do with what the other person says, but a lot to do with how much ego you have. If I'm a doctor and somebody questions my treatment, immediately I respond. I get insulted. I try to take revenge. Deep inside, I don't even go or even bother to check whether the other person was correct or not. But my immediate reaction would be to defend my knowledge. And again, how did you get this knowledge? Somebody had to give it to you. And I call that knowledge mine. Again, the ego won, and I lost. Ego is like a loaded can of gasoline. Every little spark comes and it turns into fire. This is the life we have been living so far. Even our body, same carbon, same nitrogen, same hydrogen, came from outside. The food we eat grew from the piece of land. The body, what is the difference between body and the piece of land? The piece of land converted and came into under your control, and all of a sudden that body becomes yours. If the body is yours, try stop growing. Try stop growing old. Try stop dying. And yet we do, with disastrous results, with struggle, suffering. The body that we call ours is not in our control, just like the piece of land or a piece of diamond. Our breath is not yours. Try stopping your heartbeat. Doesn't work. So we have put our stamp of ownership on every little thing in this world, wherever we could. And wherever we can't, we become jealous. And if any part of the empire of the ego that we have set up, even if a small portion is taken away, it becomes grief and we cry. You lose a friend, lose a girlfriend, lose a boyfriend, lose a parent. It becomes a major issue, mostly because that part of our kingdom of the ego has been taken away. We immediately try to fill it with something else, and eventually the wounds heal up. I had a family, mother and the daughter. The father dies because of his horrible diabetes, kidney failure, and ultimately he dies. The daughter comes in my office, extremely crying, extremely upset, very depressed. So I started talking to her about spirituality. And she says, yes, I want to do something so I come out of this grief. And then she comes back 3 days later for further examination. She was bubbly, she was happy, she was not even talking about the suffering that she was going through 3 days ago. I said, what happened? Oh, I just found out my sister is having a baby in October. So I'm happy now. Look where we are. Our happiness and sadness depends upon outside world. Wherever we can call it mine, we are happy. If that mindness gets damaged by death of one person, arrival of another one just patches up, we are lost. The ego won. The whole sansar is nothing but game of ego. Your ego versus my ego, and expansion of the ego, destruction of the ego, and there is no surprise that there is so much suffering. There is grief, there is anxiety, anger. If somebody insults you, anger. If somebody walks away, takes away your empire of the ego, somebody steals from you, you get angry. So, anger, attachments, sufferings, stress. If this is the life you want, go ahead. Till you die, you will never have found peace. The only time you will or you can have peace is if you go beyond the ego. If you can understand this game of ego, you just have to make efforts to understand the fakeness of the ego, transientness of the ego, foolishness of the ego. Sit down, meditate, and little by little walk away from this ego, the ownership which we have extended all the way into the world. Forget about the world, even your body, even your thoughts, even your beliefs, even of your ideas. All this we have called ours. They are not ours. They came from outside. All our knowledge about the world came from outside. It is not yours. There is nothing yours. And yet you are. Go deep into meditation. And you start negating your ownership on everything, including your body, your mind, your ideas, your thoughts and beliefs. Give up the ownership on it. Let them be free. There is no ownership. Ownership is the human concept. And we don't have to get sucked into this. Every person, every piece of creation of the consciousness is its own. There is no ownership of something else. If you cannot own a piece of diamond which is going to stay behind once you die and a new owner will come in, what makes you think that girlfriend is yours, boyfriend is yours, your parents are yours, your friends are yours? They come and they go in their own journey. Each soul has its own journey to go through. All we can do is understand that and give up the ownership. That is the true renunciation, where you stay exactly where you are, but you understand this play of ownership and its consequences. The only thing that is going to help you is a silk thread of awareness. The awareness is what connects your body to the sansar. To own anything, you have to be aware that you own it. If you forget about your ownership, a piece of stock certificate that you had at some point, and that company went bust and you lost money, but if you never knew about it, it's never going to bother you. So awareness keeps your connection alive between your body and the samsara. But the same awareness also extends from the mind to the body. Mind is aware of the body. Now the same awareness, we have to trace it backwards. Keep walking away from all the things that you think you own. Negate them. They are not yours. Every single thing which has come under your umbrella of the ego is gonna go, either in its own way or by the way of your death. If life does not take it away, the death will take it away. So understand the transientness and understand the freedom of each piece of creation. In nature, there is no ownership. Piece of land will stay the way it is. Piece of diamond will stay as it is. The ownership is a temporary illusion we have created, leading to our misery and suffering. So walk away from the mind. And then you come to the point that there is one thing that no one can take it away. You will realize that even if you give up all this sense of ownership, through the awareness, you will realize you exist. Your existence is something that no one can take it away. And when I say existence, not the body, not the mind, your soul, your ultimate place in this world of infinity, the consciousness. When you were playing the game of the ego, it was like a vicious game of throne. The game of the thrones is where the cutthroat competition is, because your ego and other egos clash. They fight, they struggle. Because the world is finite, there are still X amount of dollar bills printed. And if everybody struggles for the same dollar bills, obviously struggle is going to happen. Same girlfriend that you would want to have is wanted by 10 other people. What are you going to do? Struggle comes in your life. So the game of the thrones has to be avoided, has to be transcended. Once you transcend, after clear understanding of the play of the ego, the awareness will prevail. Awareness will remain. Awareness is what's going to help you understand this fakeness of the ego, the battles of the ego, the sufferings of the ego, anxieties of the ego. Ego leads you to suffering. This awareness, which is pristine and pure, can observe all these things and teach you a very, very beautiful lesson. And in the depths of meditation, you will come across where only the existence remains. Existence is infinite. Giving of the game of the thrones, game of the ego, let you enter into club infinite, where everyone is important. In this existence, everything, a piece of sand, a grain of sand, a piece of stone, a droplet of water, everything is given the existence. So when you transcend your ego, you get the entry into this infinite world of existence. And you will have your friend, awareness, with you. And the peace that you will get will be totally and literally out of the world. The comfort and the peace and the joy will be yours forever. This Trinity comprises the existence, which is Sat, the awareness, which is Chit, and the joy is Anand. Satchidanand becomes your reality, not just quotes, not just the mantras chanted, which has no meaning, but the real depth reveals the true identification of your Atma, the soul. That's where your resting place is. This is something that is no struggle, because in the club infinite there is no struggle, because everything is infinite. There is nothing finite to fight for. At that level, Christians and Hindus can merge. Hindus and Muslims can merge, because at that level, everybody has room for everything. So the true merging with the consciousness can happen at this level. So realize this, transcend the ego. You just have to die once, because you have believed that you are the body and your mind and your possessions. To give up all these things is almost like a death. You just have to die once. They call this Mahamrityu. That is the biggest death of your life. Once you die once, you don't have to die again, because body is transcended. You remain in your infinite space. Have a good day.